In this section of the course, we're going to move on to taking a look at a very important set of functions, and those are lookup functions. Consistently voted the most popular and most used functions in Excel, VLOOKUPs help us look up information in a table based on a corresponding value. And in this lesson, we're going to start out by taking a look at VLOOKUP. Now, VLOOKUP is one of the oldest lookup functions. It's a much loved function, but it does have its limitations. And those limitations have been dealt with recently with the release of a new lookup formula called XLOOKUP. And we're going to be taking a look at XLOOKUP a bit later on in this section. So let's start out by taking a look at VLOOKUP, because this is still a really popular function and you're going to need to know how it works, because you're going to find that so many spreadsheets, particularly older spreadsheets, will probably contain this formula at some point. Now, the first thing to remember about VLOOKUP is that it has two different incarnations. We have VLOOKUP exact match and we also have VLOOKUP approximate match. So let's deal with exact match first of all, because this is the one you're more likely to come across. Now, what we have in this first spreadsheet is we have a small list of part numbers. And notice that in columns B and C, where we have the description and the unit price, we don't have any values in there. Now, we have another spreadsheet at the bottom called Parts Catalog. And this is a master list of all of the parts. So maybe we are a supplier of different parts. We have all of the parts listed in the first column, then we have the description, and then we have the price for each part. So effectively what we want to do is we want to look up the part number in the parts catalog in this first column, and we want it to return the description and the price. So this is where we can use VLOOKUP. Now, I would recommend that when you're using VLOOKUP, that you do put your data into a table. So I'm going to go back to my parts catalog. I'm going to click and I'm going to press Control T. Yes, my table has headers. Let's click on OK. And once again, I'm just going to remove the table style. And I'm going to give my table a name. We're going to call it Parts Catalog. Remember, with these table names, you can't have any spaces. So let's go back. Let's type in equals VLOOKUP. Now, if you're wondering what the V part of VLOOKUP stands for, it's vertical, because we also have an H lookup we can use, which stands for horizontal lookup. And again, we'll look at that in another lesson. Now, VLOOKUP has 3 mandatory arguments and 1 optional at the end. The first argument is the lookup value. So this is, what do we want to look up in the table? Well, I want to look up the part number, so what we have in cell A5. Table array, where do I want to look this up? I want to look up the part number in the parts catalog table. Now, because we've put this in a table, I can simply start to type in the name of the table and it's going to come up underneath. So this is one of the reasons why I like to put the data in a table. If we hadn't have done that, we would need to jump across to the parts catalog worksheet and start selecting the cell range. And that can be a little bit awkward. So it's much easier just to name the table and then you can pick it up from the original worksheet. Comma. Column index number. Which column do we want to return? Now, we want to return the description, and the description column in the parts catalog is column number 2. VLOOKUP numbers columns from left to right. So the column index number is 2, comma, and this is where we get to specify if we're doing an approximate or an exact match. Now, we want to exactly match the part number in the table. So we want a false on the end here. Now, remember, with trues and falses, you can replace these with 0 for false or 1 for true. I'm going to leave it on false. Let's close the bracket, hit enter, and you can see that it's returned that description. Now I'm going to double click to widen out this column, and then we can simply drag this formula down. Now notice here that we have an NA error, and we spoke about these in a previous lesson. Now, why are we getting this error? Well, I'm going to guess that this part number doesn't exist in the parts catalog. So if we jump back to the parts catalog, I'm going to do a quick search in this column for part number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's press Control F. What am I looking for? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the part number. Let's say find next. It can't find what I'm looking for. So I can safely assume that somebody's typed this part number in wrong. Now I could choose to delete that row, or I could just use error handling to deal with this. Now it is an NA error, so I can use if NA. I could also use if error if I wanted to. And if it can't find the part number, I just want it to say part not found. We'll add that onto the end, hit enter, and now when we double click to copy this down, that now makes more sense. Let's do another VLOOKUP for the unit price. Now this time we're looking up the information in column number 3. So part number is column 1, description's column 2, price is column 3. So this is basically virtually identical to what we just did. We're just changing the column number that we're returning. So our lookup value is the part number, our table array is the parts catalog table. The column index number this time is 3, and we're doing an exact match. We can have false on the end there or simply a 0. Close the bracket, control enter, and then when we double clickety click to copy this down, it's going to return the correct results. Again, we have NA in there, so we'll want to add in some error handling. So let's use if error this time because we haven't used that yet. So I'm going to add if error in there, and this time it's going to say price not found. Close the bracket, hit enter, and double clickety click to copy that down. So that is a very simple VLOOKUP exact match. Let's take a look at a different situation. I'm going to jump across to this other worksheet that I have here, and we're going to use the approximate match argument. Now, approximate match is when you're looking up something that doesn't exactly exist in the table that you're looking it up in. So for example, you can see here that we have some tax brackets. We have a low end value, a high end value, and then a marginal tax rate. And what I want to do is I want to look up somebody's annual salary in this table, and I want it to return the marginal tax rate. But if you take a look at this first salary of 55,000, if I take a look at these values in my table, you can see that I don't exactly have 55,000 written out in a cell. 55,000 is going to fall somewhere in this bracket just here. So we can't do an exact match because it doesn't exist exactly in the table that we're looking it up in. This is where we need to use an approximate match. Now, this time I'm not going to convert these to tables because they're small data sets on the same worksheet. So let's go straight in with our VLOOKUP. Now, our lookup value is the salary. Our table array, well, we're looking it up in this table over here. Now, because I want to drag this formula down, I need to press F4 to lock those cell references in place. The column index number, well, I'm returning the marginal tax rate, which is column number 3. And this time we're doing an approximate match, so I need a true on the end there. Close the bracket, control enter, and then we can copy this formula down, and we should find that these values are correct. So let's just do a spot check. Annual salary 55,000, that's going to fall within this range. The marginal tax rate is 25%. If we take a look at 90,000, that's going to fall within this range, and the marginal tax rate returned is 28%. So that is how you construct a VLOOKUP and the difference between VLOOKUP approximate match and VLOOKUP exact match.
If you're not a subscriber, click down below to subscribe so you get notified about similar videos we upload. To see the full course that this video came from, click over there. And click over there to see more videos from Simon Says It.